By the time the excavation was over, the search crews had stopped counting the days. What had begun as a missing person investigation had turned into the largest homicide scene the county had ever witnessed. It started when a utility company reported a strong odor coming from an abandoned farmhouse scheduled for demolition. The property had been empty for years, its windows shattered, its fields swallowed by weeds. Deputies entered expecting to find a deceased squatter. Instead, they found dried blood covering the concrete floor of an old machine shed. The blood belonged to at least 3 different people. None of them were there. A search warrant was executed for the entire property. Behind the barn, investigators noticed several patches of freshly disturbed earth that looked strangely out of place. Ground-penetrating radar revealed multiple underground anomalies. The digging began the next morning. The first grave contained the remains of a man who had disappeared 18 months earlier after leaving work. The second held a young woman reported missing almost 4 years before. By the end of the week, detectives had recovered 7 bodies. Each victim had suffered repeated blunt force injuries before death, and every body showed evidence that the killer had made deliberate attempts to conceal identification. Personal belongings had been removed, fingerprints were destroyed by decomposition, and several victims had been wrapped in heavy plastic before burial. The medical examiner described the killings as methodical, not impulsive, not chaotic. Someone had taken their time. The victims had almost nothing in common. A nurse, a truck mechanic, a college student, a retired electrician, a waitress, a warehouse worker, a real estate agent. Different lives, different routines, no obvious connection. Detectives built a timeline stretching back nearly 9 years. The only pattern they could find was unsettling. Every victim had last been seen driving alone on rural roads after dark. Then a forensic analyst made an unexpected discovery. Tiny fragments of livestock feed were found trapped inside the clothing of 4 victims. The feed was uncommon, sold to only a handful of farms in the county. Investigators visited each one. Most owners willingly cooperated. One property stood out, Blackridge Farm. The owner, Thomas Hale, claimed he hadn't operated the farm in years. The buildings were falling apart, and he insisted he rarely visited. But utility records showed electricity had been used almost every night. When detectives searched the property, they found fresh tire tracks leading to a locked equipment shed. Inside were restraints, bloodstained work gloves, and several tools that forensic testing later linked to the victims. The evidence seemed overwhelming. Thomas Hale was arrested. Then everything unraveled. DNA recovered from the tools belonged to the victims. But none belonged to Hale. His fingerprints weren't on the restraints. His truck's GPS showed he had been hundreds of miles away during at least 2 of the disappearances. Witnesses confirmed his whereabouts. Within weeks, prosecutors dropped every charge. Someone had used his abandoned property without his knowledge. The investigation started over from the beginning. Detectives examined every visitor, delivery driver, hunter, and trespass report connected to the farm. Dozens of names surfaced. Every lead ended the same way. Nothing. Years later, investigators reopened several of the graves to apply newer forensic techniques. This time they found a single clue. Embedded in one victim's clothing was a tiny metal shaving used in industrial machine shops. Hundreds of employees in the region worked with identical equipment. The clue narrowed the suspect pool, but never narrowed it enough. Today, Blackridge Farm has been demolished. The fields have been cleared, and a memorial now stands near the entrance. The victims were finally identified and returned to their families. Their killer was never found. Investigators believe whoever committed the murders possessed enough knowledge to clean a crime scene, transport bodies without attracting attention, and disappear before anyone realized multiple cases were connected. Many detectives have retired without seeing the case solved. Some still wonder if the killer attended the memorial service, standing quietly among grieving families, listening as the victims' names were read aloud, knowing every person there was searching for a monster, while never realizing they were standing only a few feet away from one.